listening to Rated R with Rasheeda. I'm your host, Rasheeda, and we're talking about relationships. We're keeping it real, relevant, and relatable. And I have a very special guest with me today. She's someone who's known me my entire life. Since I was in diapers.
Yes, indeed.
Crying like a big baby because I was a baby. And I still cry. I still cry. That is my very, very special Aunt Lena, Adelina Winfield.
Hello.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I'm glad to have you here. So, as you know, I've started this podcast because I really want to talk about exactly what I said, relationships, what does it mean to date with purpose, true love is possible. I believe that. You're laughing.
I don't know if I can answer those, but I'll try my best to weigh in as best I can.
No, that's good. And it's funny because whenever I think of true love, I think of grandma and grandpa.
Yes.
And so for those of you listening that don't know, my grandmother was Filipino. And so my grandfather is actually, he was from down south, right?
Yes, from Virginia.
From Virginia, and they met during World War II. And they have a very special story. So I just wanted to ask you, what was it like growing up in New York, being the product of a biracial couple during
In the
time?
age before Tiger Woods, yes.
Yeah, so tell me, you grew up in Brooklyn. Where in Brooklyn?
Downtown Brooklyn, in actually the Gowanus Projects. So my mother was a war bride, and
what is that? What is that war bride?
I'm gonna explain. During World War II, a lot of the soldiers stationed in Asia married Philippine women or Asian women, Korean women, Japanese women during that period of time, and they would bring them back to the U.S., my mother being one of them. My father was stationed in the Philippines in Manila, and my mother used to visit the base. She and her friends used to go and I guess visit the soldiers, but she had a little business, a buying and selling business, and she would sell to just I guess everybody, soldiers included. And I guess they were kind of looking for guys as well while they were on the base. Mm-hmm. And she and many of her friends ended up marrying soldiers, and my mother in particular, a black soldier, which was very taboo in that time, which I think they got married around 1945 or 1946. And she eloped. They eloped.
Ooh, so where did they elope to? Like where?
They eloped to the ship coming back to the U.S. with the rest of the soldiers.
So she didn't tell her family?
She couldn't tell her family, and she often would tell me the story that she kept her secret with Aunt Gloria. You met Aunt Tia Gloria.
Tia Gloria.
My mother's sister. My mother was one of 13, but she was close to her youngest sister, Gloria, and she kept the secret with her, told her that she was getting married and that she was going to elope, and instructed her not to tell until she was on the boat or until, she was
long gone.
Long gone.
Oh, man.
And she explained to me that she couldn't tell her parents because they would whip her butt. She said her brothers, her whole family would come down and beat her. Wow. So, she made her choice, which actually that was quite a risk.
That's so brave. I mean, you're basically going against your family, and then you're getting on a boat, right? That's how they got here?
Yes.
To a land you've never been to.
Exactly. To a man
you kind of knew?
Yes.
I mean, how much?
I don't know how long they courted, but I guess they dated for a while. And
like a year?
I don't know, but I know they got married. She didn't tell anyone, and she was going home and then going back and going home, going back to the base. And I guess they had this scheme to get on the boat. And the boat, the way it is, it goes from Asia to the West Coast, L.A. So I could have been, living in LA too, had my mother and father, had my father not decided to head, north, and come to New York to be where his family was.
Okay, that was my question. So how did the family end up in New York? Was it because the rest of his family was here?
Yes. I think they everybody stops in California and then they come here. So the ship, and I have a picture of the ship somewhere.
Oh, I gotta see this.
I hope I can find it in the mix, but I think I have it. And that's the boat that they came on.
So once they got here, they settled in the projects. You said Gowanus projects.
Yes.
What did Grandpa do? What was his profession? Like, how did they live?
You know what? Profession, quote unquote, in those days didn't mean the same thing, and they didn't have much of an education. They both had 6th grade educations. And my father worked in a factory. After he, I guess, was discharged from the service, he worked in a factory in North Bergen, New Jersey. I remember that, some box factory. And he did that for many years. And he would leave really early in the morning, 5:30 in the morning, and we didn't see him until he came in at night. So so that's what they did. But I do have a story that my mother would tell me. She told me that back in the day, they really thought that once there were dreams of America, the promised land. She thought money actually grew on trees.
What? Wait. She literally thought because that's what they would say in the Philippines?
Yes, or
reading books or
whatever
figurative language.
Fantasies, theories about America. She thought money. She said she actually thought money grew on trees.
And did she think the streets were made of gold?
Who knows?
Okay.
Who knows? But I know it was a rude awakening when she came to the projects.
I was just thinking, man, and then she ended up in
the projects.
However,
having been to the Philippines, living in the projects is probably a couple of big steps up from, there was no running water or anything.
Wow.
When I went in 1991, when she passed away, I stayed at my friend's house who didn't have running water in Metro Manila.
Oh.
Yeah.
So this was like the city area that you stayed in. There still was not.
I had to take a bird bath in her bathroom in the big bucket of water and splash myself with a dipper, and then. So I mean,
but it's funny. But
no, so it's relative. It was still better than the life she had, I'm sure.
So once they got here and they settled here, how soon did they have Daddy? So my father is the oldest in the family.
Yes.
He's the eldest.
Yes.
Like, how many years were they here before they popped them out?
I believe that how old is he? What year was he born? 47?
47.
Okay, so within a year or two, I think they got here in 45.
Oh, you did say 45. Okay.
Or 46, 5 or 46, and
Wow.
Birth control wasn't like it is now.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm sure he was born almost right away.
Wow.
And then consequently, every year after that, the rest of my brothers the rest of my 4 brothers were born.
Right, so there's four boys,
Four
and
boys.
then you were the final baby. You were the baby.
I'm the baby, the girl, 6 years after the youngest of the boys.
Wow.
So.
And did she ever say like that she was hoping for a girl, like with that last pregnancy?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, they were.
So what memories do you have of like just growing up in that household?
The memory that sticks to my mind the most, and sensory everything, is my mother's cooking.
Oh, I like that memory.
I can still smell the onions and garlic that she always had sauteing for whatever meal. And when I think about it, we ate, the way we ate on a regular basis is like gourmet food today, because I would have coconut, shrimp, and
right, everything you have to pay
that.
a lot of money for.
All these exotic meals, but then she cooked great soul food too, because my father taught her how to cook soul food. So I grew up in a house with like all these a wonderful mix of soul food and Asian food, and it was great. Plus my father spoke a little Tagalog.
He did? Because he was there.
He did, and they used to talk. I didn't know what they were talking about. I guess in his naive way of speaking, but they communicated.
Oh,
it was
so cute.
It really was cute. It really was cute.
Oh my
God.
God.
He would speak it. He would speak it, and they had. I never saw them argue. They had a very, very loving relationship. My mother wasn't very affectionate, or she was very shy about affection, and my father was more overtly affectionate. Like if he would say, "Give me a kiss before you leave to go wherever," she'd be, just kind of embarrassed. It was part of the culture. Everything was embarrassing. Everything was very, they were very demure, very shy, and so she was not openly affectionate.
And so when you went out in public, do you remember, like, when the family would go out, I don't know, grocery shopping? I'm trying to see.
Yes.
Were there a lot of stares? Like,
Yes.
did you feel the racism, the stares, the glares?
Yes, not as much as my brothers did, who were more a product of the 50s. And I remember the 60s more, and the world was changing. Civil rights and all that, it was almost a little different. So I got the tail end of it, but I do remember people staring because my mother looked very Chinese. She was one of these Philippine women that looked Chinese. Some Philippine women are brown, but my mother looked Chinese. So she would be walking with these kids. I guess they thought she was the maid.
Wow.
Or whatever, She'd be walking with me, and then, people would stare. And then my mother told me I said this, and this one girl was staring at me and asked me, "Do you speak Chinese?" And I think I said to her, "No, do you speak African?"
Oh, that's...
And I was like, "Oh my God, I said that." And she goes, "Yeah." But anyway, so that's how it was back then. For me, it wasn't so noticeable in public, but my brothers had it a little different. Your father had the straightest hair out of all the brothers. So he could actually flip his hair back like a white boy. So when he was playing basketball, he could flip it back. And, sometimes they would ridicule him and laugh at him.
And they meaning other black...
Growing up in the projects, being a black community, yes, they, black folks who didn't understand, kids, they would laugh. And recently, in the last couple of years, my brother Yato,
my uncle Yato,
and my brother Michael told me that they would actually be embarrassed when my mother came up to the school if there were issues. They would be happy and excited if my father came up, their father, but they would not be happy if their mother, my mother came up, they would hide.
Wow.
Because the kids would ridicule them. "Oh, look at your mother, she's Chinese, that's your mother?" That kind of thing. So they would
openly in their face.
Yes, so they would literally hide. They would literally hide.
So what do you think you learned about love from their relationship?
It was a different time and place. Everything was different. My father... Absolutely. My mother was the person who budgeted in the home. So my father, and I know you're asking me about love, but I'm just, these are all the dynamics. Like, it was that day and time my father would bring the check home, and he would give it to my mother, and she'd budget. And boy, she could budget out of that little check that he was making, for 5 kids. My father always came home. He was never one to be out in the streets, and he was just very loving to her. Like I said, I never saw them argue or anything like that. But the funny thing is, I remember their 25th wedding anniversary. There was a party, and my brother Yato was taping, had a microphone, and he was taping people, and they kissed. And then he spoke into the microphone. He goes, "In 25 years, I had never seen my mother and father kiss." Everybody just started laughing because you know how they were back in the day. So, so that was really something. And go ahead.
And I remember you telling me that because you said she was very shy. It seemed like they kept to themselves, but there was this community of like interracial couples that kind of stuck. They stood together, they stuck together.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about that.
Okay.
Because they used to be like parties or...
Yes. Well, as you know, you came to one of the War Bride thing party that I had, which was a get-together, kind of a reunion of all of the families that we grew up with, because my mother and her community of friends all married black men and black soldiers, and some of them maybe even came on the same boat, or they found each other when they got here, and then they had this community, and they would have parties at my house every month, and they would be jamming and dancing and cooking. I mean, it was festivities all the time. You see the photos that I have.
Wow.
You've seen a lot
Yeah,
of them.
yeah, yeah.
Sometimes, mostly it would be at our house, and sometimes it would be at other somebody in Queens. But there was a group of about 5 of them that my mother remained close to for many, many years, who also married black men.
And did they come over when she came over?
Around the same time.
Wow.
Yes, around the same time. And what my mother would definitely say to me, she said that it was, I guess you could call it racism back then, but the Philippine women who married white soldiers wouldn't associate with the Philippine women who married black soldiers. And I guess different times, whatever, but it was a definite thing that they didn't want to associate with them. So.
And were they also still living in the same community? Like, you didn't have Filipino brides with white soldiers living in the projects, did you?
Not that I know of.
Okay.
But all of my mother's friends lived in various projects in Brooklyn.
Gotcha.
So we lived in Gowanus, they lived in Farragut, the other ones lived in Fort Greene, and they all, it's just what happened. I guess it was affordable. Everybody had a lot of kids, and it's just the way it happened.
Wow. So you said you grew up in like the 60s and the 70s. What was that like? Because that was like, civil rights movement. Then you had flower power, this hippie free love kind of time.
Yes.
What was that like for you growing up? Because you went to Catholic school, right?
I went to Catholic school. My brothers went to public school. I went to Catholic school. Where I got my first taste of interracial living. So I didn't experience racism very much. Of course there was an undertone because of a lot of the things socially that were going on, Martin Luther King and afros, black power, race riots, but it wasn't that tangible. It was, the school that I went to had some black students, some Hispanic, and the rest were white. I would say maybe 70-30, 60-40. So, we were just learning and getting along with each other, and I didn't experience racism in elementary school, and definitely not in high school, even though it was tumultuous times. No, I really didn't. I really can't say it's part of my experience.
Okay. And so for you, was it taboo for you to be like, okay, or interested in dating out of your race, or was it like you grew up and you were like, okay, I'm gonna date black men, or like what was that like for you during that time?
I guess I grew up thinking, I didn't think about it, but I was attracted to black men.
Okay.
At that time I really didn't think about it. Black men, Hispanic men, because they were in
your neighborhood,
circle, my neighborhood growing up. And then I got into high school. I didn't think about it. I mostly identified as black.
Mm-hmm. And so when it comes to like your faith as a Christian woman, like when did you decide or when did you become a Christian?
Oh wow. My brother Ricky, I was in Catholic school, and my brother Ricky, I'm laughing because I used to get high a lot in high school, smoke pot.
It's real right now.
I started smoking pot at a very young age, so when I was in high school, I used to get high a lot. I don't know if I ever told you this.
I did know.
True confessions.
True confessions with Rasheeda.
True confessions to now be public. Oh my God. Oh my. But
we're among friends. We're among friends. It's all good.
So but growing up Catholic, you just figure, I go to Catholic school. I'm religious. I believe in Jesus. And then Ricky got saved. And things got really real because he witnessed to me like I never heard before. He broke it down, and I'll never forget. Well, you're not really a Christian. I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, all our righteousnesses are as filthy rags. I think it's Proverbs or whatever verse that is. So whatever I did, you're not really a believer. You must be saved. So I would just I shrugged it off, and then it kept going in my head. And then one day I was high and I came home. One day I was high and I came home from school, high school, and nobody was home. And nobody was anywhere around. So I thought it was the rapture.
What?
And I was so paranoid to be left behind.
Wow.
I don't know if I ever told
No.
you. I was so paranoid I thought I was left behind. Nobody was anywhere. There was always somebody home. My mother, my brother, nobody was anywhere to be found. And I was like, oh no, this is it, I'm good. So, it made me think long and hard again. And shortly after that, I came to faith because I was being convicted on every level at that time, knowing that, oh my God, I'm not saved. And then another thing, around that time, there were a lot of deaths in my family. My father had died. This is before my father died. This is after my father died that this happened. My father died. My uncle died. My grandmother died. Probably all in the span of 2 years. So when you are 14, 15, 16, and are faced with, mortality like that, you start thinking about eternity. And I started thinking about eternity. And when he started talking to me about it, just thinking about it, I made my decision. So around 17, I got saved.
Wow. And so, this is a big question, but what's that journey been like since then?
It's been up and down.
It's been up and down.
Been up and down, but I had a really, really great foundation, as your father can tell you. We studied with Brother Morris, who absolutely gave me the basic foundations of salvation, works, security, of being eternally secure, of knowing the word. It was just because of his teaching and the foundation that I have. Even though I may have backslidden in life and been up and down, the foundation has been unshakable. And but yeah, it's been a journey. It's been a journey. Far from perfect, and different churches, different circumstances, relationships, everything, and also churches. I where I am right now is I have come to realize that I come to church to serve the Lord, and I'm not looking for the cult of personality. I'm not looking for, there's never going to be a perfect minister. So any church you go to, you're going to have some issues. So wherever I am right now is where I am. And wherever God moves me to, that's where I'll go. But you're always going to find imperfection. They're humans,
Right.
So
Right. They're always. And so, just going back to Grandma and Grandpa, though, so they were married for how long?
25 years.
25 years, and so Grandpa died.
He died that year, in their 25th year.
Wow. And after that, did Grandma ever date anyone? Did she ever
said she never would, because she said they don't make them like that anymore.
That is beautiful. And so
she would do it again. She would marry him again. Aww. She said that, because I used to think she was lonely and all that, and she's like, she had no desire to date. They were, she really loved him unconditionally, and she said that there was nobody like him. I guess he knew her very well, and they were just a good match, I guess. Yeah. And my father never, as far as I know, he never cheated on. He was always home. He always came home. He cooked. He cleaned. Yes, my house was spotless because of him.
Well, maybe they don't make him like that anymore, for real.
I mean, we used to clean the walls. I used to wash
The walls.
We washed the walls.
That is some spotlessness. That's detail.
I remember dusting. I could still smell the pledge. Dusting the furniture. He was the one who did that. But he also could cook. Sunday morning, he was making biscuits.
Oh, from scratch.
From scratch.
Oh.
And I remember, Friday, we know it was payday. He would bring home some donuts for the kids. We'd all be waiting. It was amazing. It was amazing. And then he would cook. He cooked a lot, and then he used to make these little tuna cracker things, pile them up high. 5 of us would be sitting around and just devouring them as fast as we could,
So you could keep getting more, right? Oh.
Well, you had to be fast because
there's
with
five
us.
of you. Oh.
And I remember that.
So it sounds like there was like a lot of. Did you sit down at the table as a family and eat?
I remember that we did. Yes, we did. Not every day. And
Right.
then my brothers were a lot older than I, so after a while they were out. They were teenagers and
Doing their own thing.
doing their thing. Yeah. And then my brothers, maybe you would find this interesting. They were really good looking in their teenage years.
I saw the pictures.
So they had the big fros, and the girls were like crazy about them and stuff like that. So it was pretty funny. And I was looking at the pictures the other day. So
I know I saw them. I was like, okay, don't hurt nobody. They really with their fros and they were very cute. They really were. But as were you, or you still are.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. So, but just. Because when I think of their relationship, grandma and grandpa, I'm just like, it just seems so beautiful. And there's like, it makes me believe that, I can find true love one day. But it just has not been the best journey thus far. But I'm learning, and I still believe. Do you believe that true love is still possible? And why is that?
I do. As you know, my life has been amazing. I've had really an amazing, blessed, wonderful journey in my career and travels and my life, my upbringing, and coming through things and reaching a lot of goals that I wanted to reach. One of the areas that I had a challenge with is relationships, as you know. But I still believe. I have 2 failed marriages. But I still believe, and I still think it's possible. I'm not going to ever give up. God gave us love. God made us that way, and it's been elusive thus far, but I still hope and believe. Mm-hmm. And I want you to also.
Not giving up at all.
Don't give up. Don't give up.
In
And when
all
you look around and you
seriousness.
see people that do have relationships that work, they are possible. They are out there. It's possible.
Do you think we give guys too much of a bad rap today? Because I feel like it's so easy to point fingers. Because even just hearing how grandpa was, like, he cooked, he cleaned, he did all this stuff. Like, are there guys like that around anymore?
You know what? I know. In a way, he wasn't perfect either. But I guess his good outweighed the negative stuff, because on one hand, what I didn't discuss with you is my mother was a little frustrated because she wanted to go to school and he didn't want her to go to school. He wanted her to stay home. She wanted to be an accountant. And he would tell her, no, you're fine the way you are.
Interesting.
So there's no utopia, and he was probably a bit insecure, having a 6th grade education, and I think she alluded to that by saying I don't think he wanted me to exceed his knowledge or his education or whatever, and make him feel less than, or make him feel less than the man in that generation. And so in that generation they fell back and they just said, all right, you know.
But times have changed now.
Times have changed.
And it seems like, I mean, yeah, you have some men who stay at home and the wife goes out and works.
Right.
And that's okay.
That's okay. Right. If it works for them and if they agree that that's what they want and it's okay, then it's fine.
Well, what do you think is wrong with how people approach dating today, though? Because it just, I don't know, it just seems like nobody's on the same page.
Nobody is. And let me start with online dating.
Yeah, let's go online.
Online dating is a whole nother... You know what? I kind of miss the meeting someone in person, and not necessarily at a bar, but bumping into someone, or a guy seeing a woman, and finding her attractive and starting a conversation. You know, a whole romantic, tapping you on the shoulder, miss, you really look beautiful. Would you mind, you know? Can you imagine back in the day, men got rejected probably on a regular basis until a woman said yes or whatever. Mm-hmm. Well, now you're just online and you just click, mm-hmm. and send a wink. If nobody's winking back, I guess that's a rejection. But
you swipe left, you swipe right.
Yeah, even I'm not in that Tinder, whatever. I don't know about that, but it's a challenge today because what I think is that it's so superficial, and I find, and I think men do it, but probably women too, is I call it candy shopping, and they just, click, and probably send winks out to several women and see what sticks. And then I find the communication is not substantial. A lot of times, obviously I've been online, a lot of times you'll get a message and it's like, hi, hello, and then nothing else, and you'll answer back and then crickets, nothing else.
So why even reach out in the first place?
Or hi, how are you? They'll say hi, and then you'll go, hi, I'm fine, how are you? And then, hi, how are you? You want it a little more substantial. I can't answer that. But then there are others that do, and those are the ones that I end up relating to, is the ones that will write back and
actually
have more
substance, like a human.
Exactly. Communicate, have something to say, ask you questions, I don't have the answer.
You don't have the answer? How do you not have the answer? That's why I'm interviewing you right now. I'm joking.
I'm sorry. But I did meet a gentleman recently at the gym, the old-fashioned way.
Wow.
So, it's possible. So I want to offer hope that it is possible. And not online always. Online works for some, and,
Okay, so it is possible to actually meet people in person. Like in the olden days.
Yes, that you can click with and be attracted to. Yes, it is possible.
Wow. So what do you think is, like, maybe this is a big question, but like the biggest thing you've learned? Because you did share that you've been married before.
Yes.
What do you think you've learned from those experiences?
All right, let me think long and hard about that.
Yeah.
Unconditional love is work. It's work. We do have conditions. We do say, oh, if this, I'll do that, and you're not doing this. Well, the godly love and unconditional love is really loving people through all of their stuff. I think that maybe I'll have more patience, more understanding. I don't know, that's one of the main things.
Yes, no, I think that's
one of the main things. Allowing a person their beingness, allowing, it doesn't have to be exactly my way or the way I see it. People are so different. People behave differently, see things differently. As long as you can communicate and resolve it, I think the most important thing is talking it out. One of the things that was really lacking in my last relationship is that I never knew how he felt, and I never knew his true expression or true feeling. So I was second guessing and guessing wrong and not knowing who I was dealing with because he wasn't expressing it. And it was a lot of work trying to get him to express, what he was feeling.
His true feelings.
So I don't know who he was. It was really weird. So I think the communication piece is key.
Mm-hmm. And I just feel like today people, because you were talking about unconditional love, I just feel like today people just give up too easily because there's so many options. Like, you talk about the online dating, it's like you could just go from, if this person doesn't respond to the email that you said that has one word in it, hello, then they're just like, okay, on to the next.
Yeah.
But it's like, can we get to a point where we're actually taking the time and getting to know people, and investing the energy? But there's just so many options. Sometimes I can say that makes me feel a little discouraged, because it's like you feel like you're in this competition, like, okay, I gotta be this better woman, or I gotta present this. But I don't know, if it's meant to be, it's meant to be, right?
If somebody's gonna love you, they're gonna love you for you. I just want to relax about it. But I think we also have a short attention span today. If he doesn't get back to me now, if he doesn't text me back now, that means that he's doesn't like me. Oh my God, he fell and he couldn't get up and his phone died or whatever.
Patience is important.
Patience, and we live in like this bite of seconds and.
Yeah, because everywhere you're used to getting everything
now.
Credit cards, you can get your food now. You don't have to cook anything.
You don't have to go shop. You don't have to go to the store. You don't have to. Now you don't even have to go out. You can look at a guy online and say him, or
right.
You can. Everything is instant, so we've kind of lost. We lost something, and yeah.
But even with that, even with lack of patience and people just not even really wanting to spend the time to get to know someone, I still believe that it is possible to find that right person, and that happiness and a happy ending is possible.
It is.
It took a lot for me to get there. I'm very convincing, aren't I? I'm like,
But I also would like to add that I think we have to revise our lists from time to time. If our list is unrealistic, and if a person doesn't meet 100% of the list, take the parts of the list that are most important to you. Like for me, being a Christian, being conservative, and other areas that I have at the top of the list. The other ones are negotiable or deal withable. You know what I'm saying?
So your non-negotiables are must be a Christian.
Yes.
And must share the same.
It would similar conservative beliefs that are based on biblical principles.
Wow.
Based on a Christian biblical worldview, because that does shape how you feel about politics in a lot of cases. I don't want to be arguing with somebody if we have ideological, political differences that I feel are dictated by the Word of God.
Wow.
Like marriage.
Yeah.
Non-negotiable.
Yeah.
Between a man and a woman. And I don't know who's hearing this. This is not hate. This is just the Word of God.
Wow.
And,
No, that. Do you think, so Christian being the non-negotiable, was that always a non-negotiable for you?
It was a negotiable, non-negotiable for a little while, but now it's absolutely non-negotiable.
And why is that?
Because I've dealt with and lived with men who were not really believers, and I don't want that at this point in my life. I want somebody I can pray with. I want somebody who I can go to church with. It's kind of lonely being a believer, going to church by yourself, and not being able to talk to them about life from from a godly perspective, because they don't see it the same way. So if you don't see it the same way, therefore, how can you plan life the same way? You're both going in different directions, and it's directly out of the Bible, right?
Mm-hmm.
Unequally yoked.
Right.
And God knows what he's talking about. I took the detours, and I'm paying for it.
Why do you think, and I'm saying we, because I've gone down that path too, why do you think we settle? Why do you think, because I think for a lot of women who are Christian, that is one of their should be one of their non-negotiables, and I know this, but I see a lot of us, kind of leave some room for wiggling in that area. It's just like, he goes to church, dot, dot, dot. He's really funny and he loves his family. Like, why is that something that we just kind of have been iffy about?
Very good question. I think that we lie to ourselves.
Ooh, what do you mean?
I think that we see all the signs, that along with other signs that we may not have acknowledged, and just say, I can deal with it, and then it comes back to bite us later. Maybe we see a slight red flag of a little jealousy, and we go, that's all right. Just like, he goes to church, and then he's not really a believer, but we can bring him into the kingdom, and it just doesn't really happen. I think we tend to kind of accept it and lie to ourselves, knowing in our gut, because I've had a lot of red flags that I ignored, and now I'm at this point in my life, I try to heed them as best as possible, because they are telling you something, and they're usually right.
I think you feel it. I think deep down you feel it, and you know it, but you just get caught up in the idea of being in love or being with someone, and seeing their good qualities too, but you ignore
it,
the not so good qualities, and ultimately you do want someone that you can share your faith with, that you can pray with, that you can go to church with, especially if God is such a big part of your life.
Yeah.
How could you not share that? Like,
I know.
If cake is something you eat every day,
yeah,
wouldn't you want to be able to share that cake with whoever you're with every day?
Yes. And sometimes we're just impatient and in my case, I had no business marrying a man. There wasn't even any negotiable thing. He wasn't a believer at all, and I just, went into it, and I shouldn't. I wanted a relationship, and here was someone. I was involved with someone who I really was in love with, who wasn't ready to settle down, and he had all these girlfriends, and he was like not a womanizer. He was a player, real cute, really, really sweet, and but he wasn't ready, and he was honest with me. He said, I'm just not ready for anything serious. If I had been a patient woman, I could have maybe hung in there, because he was a good guy, and he ended up getting saved later.
Really?
After I was married.
Interesting.
After I was married. So I look back at that and say, oh, if I had hung in there, but I was so wanting to get married, so that when Ray came and wanted a relationship, I think I was more in love with being married than getting married than really being in love. I was in love. Okay, let me say it this way. I was in love with wanting to get married before 30 more than I was in love with the person.
Wow,
yes.
That is very
and that's real.
Telling, and
that's
I think
real.
That happens a lot, though, right?
It does.
You're in love with the idea of
being in love, or getting married,
or actually just having someone there and
having
being
someone.
married.
I'm almost 30. My clock is ticking, and so at any cost you do it. I think our relationship lasted 2 years, if that. Of course, I have the wonderful Justin, but
my cousin, yes, who is wonderful, but
yes.
but of course,
but it just. It was wrong. I mean, I had those flags, and I just went ahead with it anyway. I did, and we all get them, because how many times do you go, I knew it. There was something told me, or somebody told me, and you just don't you don't heed it. So note to anybody who hears this, if there's that thing, that check in your spirit or something in your gut, explore it, listen to it, or maybe like back off, try to figure it out, look at it, there's probably something there.
That's good advice. Any other final words or any advice that you want to give to anyone listening right now?
Keep hope alive. I'm keeping it alive. Even at my age. I'm a woman of a certain age, and I still feel there is hope. There are good men out there. There are good men out there. Don't give up. Don't sell yourself short, and know yourself. And I think you and I've talked about this. Prepare yourself, and I heard this recently. Be the person that you would like to marry.
Ooh, that's good for the next episode. Be the person that you would like to marry. That's a question that I should ask myself. Am I that person? Am I even someone that I would want to marry?
So we all need to ponder that. I don't know. I guess I wasn't with you. I heard it somewhere. Be the person that you would like to marry. So we do have work to do. I need to work on myself, and we all do.
Wow. You're the best, Auntie!
Oh, thank you.
We're hugging right now. You can't see us, but we're hugging. I love this.
Oh, I hope I added some insight.
Absolutely.
People can learn from my mistakes as well, and be encouraged.
All right. Thank you, Auntie. I appreciate your time.